Okay, yes. Roseanne, thank you so much for opening your home to all of us, for providing all of these chairs, getting things ready, moving things around, scheduling to have me come out. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so all of you should have a handout. If you don't, just look on a chair behind you, you'll have a handout there. So to begin with, I just want to, first of all, say we're going to be going over a lot of information today. And one thing that I always try to avoid or kind of cringe at is thinking that I'm going to have everybody be here feeling totally overwhelmed. There's a lot to share. There's a lot of good things out there, and I have reasons as to why I share each individual thing. And we're going to go over why I share each of those things here today. But the last thing I want people to do is feel like they have to go out and just run and get everything. I just don't think that's wise. We need to do things in a balanced way, and more often than not, the spirit or our gut feeling, our instincts will just tell us what we need to be focusing on. So whatever it is during this class that I talk about, where suddenly all your interest just peaks on that certain thing, that's what you're supposed to be learning about. That's what you're supposed to be bringing into your home. If after you leave this class there are certain things that just won't leave your mind, those are the things you need to be focusing on first, at least, right? And just keep it simplified that way. Let's see. Okay, so my story starts out at it was 8 years ago. I began suffering with Lyme disease. It just took a hold of my body. I think it had been an underlying condition in my body for a long time. But after a lot of stressful events and being pregnant and a lot of issues, it just took root and started taking over my body. So I struggled with the Lyme disease for about 7.5 years. And it was, I wasn't diagnosed with the Lyme disease until 2 to 3 years into it. And really I was in denial of it. Even after being diagnosed with it, I was in denial of it. Because I had done enough studying and research. Every time I came across Lyme disease, it just sounded so complicated. And so it was just a really interesting journey to finally be diagnosed as having that, and then to really grasp that and to find somebody who could really help me. Lyme disease is an interesting illness. It's basically where spirochete, these spiral-like bacteria burrow into your system, start replicating like crazy. When they see any sort of threat, they go into a cyst form and kind of hide themselves away from that, protect themselves away from that, and replicate while they're in that state. When they see the coast is clear, they come out and wreak more havoc. So for me, I started treating myself at home, and I had some success that way. Initially, in the beginning, before I even knew I had Lyme disease, I knew I had chronic candida overgrowth, which is a great way to break down a person's overall foundation or immune system, where all kinds of other things can creep in, or just where our bodies have an inability to detox, where our bodies just have a lower immune system, so we're just more susceptible to becoming ill more easily. It just creates a whole host of really ugly problems. Anyway, but it was during that whole journey that I continually was treating myself, and then it still just wasn't enough in the beginning. And I ended up getting brain inflammation severe enough and often enough that I could tell that I only had maybe a month or two left to live. And it was interesting because not very many people outside of our home understood what was going on. I would peek my head out, my face out on my good days, and people would see me and say, well, what's wrong with her? Like, why is she sick all the time, right? I would have people hint to me like, you just need to exercise more, or, you know, every once in a while I have body pains and stuff too, and I blow it up into bigger things than they really are. And, you know, I would get angry, I would get upset. It was hard to deal with that. People didn't understand. The only people who really understood what was going on was my husband and I. You know, we kind of hid it from my children. It was interesting because when things got really bad with me, you know, we couldn't just stay holed up in our home all the time and just keep our kids at home all the time. They needed to get out, they needed to do things. So John, he would take the kids out, but he would leave one of them with me, one of the older ones with me, so that they could, just in case, make a quick phone call and get some help over, just in case, because we just didn't know. It was just such an interesting place to be living in a body that was so on the verge of just shutting down. And every day I would just plead, especially when it was really bad, I would just plead and pray and cry and beg just that my life would be spared. And I did feel like it was confirmed to me time and time again through scriptures and through prayer. I am lending you your breath every day. I am the one keeping you here on earth. And, but I didn't understand because I thought, well, okay, but I'm miserable, I'm about to die, where do I go, what do I do? And eventually, through a series of different contacts and little miracles, I was led to the West Clinic out in Cloverdale, Idaho, and started receiving IV treatments there. And it was really good. It put me into a die-off, in a state of die-off, where the bacteria and other pathogens were dying off so quickly that my body couldn't detox from that, and so I was actually feeling a lot worse than better, symptoms like heart palpitations, super weak, foggy brain, losing the ability to walk, things like that increased dramatically. The brain inflammation went away fairly quickly, but other things started going crazy. Anyway, but eventually we ran out of funds. It was just really expensive to go there. So we ran out of being able to pay for those treatments. We had borrowed friends' money, we had borrowed, or not borrowed, but we accepted donations, so to speak, from friends, from family to help us out. But even then, I realized that I had to continually treat myself at home away from these clinics. In my mind, initially, I thought, well, if I would just receive these IV treatments, that's all I would need. So I'd either go once a week or I'd go for a full week, and then I would just recover and get better. But then I found that even while I was at home, I still had to treat myself. And so, and this went on for a few years too, right? So I was continually treating myself and finding anything and everything that could possibly help me, that would not only beat down those pathogens, detox my body, but build up my system too, because it was so broken down just from the disease that I was dealing with. And it was interesting because usually I'd be sick for about 3 to 6 months at a time. It was just constant, and I literally felt like I just couldn't do it anymore, emotionally, physically, spiritually, I just couldn't keep pushing through anymore. But then suddenly I'd get a window, a break, one day, one blessed day where I felt good, I was the one doing the dishes, I was actually able to go shopping instead of having my husband there because I just didn't have the energy, or I couldn't think clearly enough to do it. But it was interesting, one time this happened a few different times, situations similar to this, but one time I had 2 whole weeks where I felt good, and I thought, I've made it. I've done it, I've beat this disease, I am good to go, and we went on a tour through the Bishop's Storehouse with the youth in our ward, and they were watching this video just showing, what the Bishop's Storehouse does with these products, how they help other people in third world countries and other places. And it was a neat video, but it wasn't necessarily moving or very incredibly touching. But it was, and I'll explain why I'm saying this in a minute, but it was during the video that the Spirit just said very strongly to me, you have more to learn, are you willing? And I knew exactly what that meant. I needed to suffer more to learn more, because one day I'd be teaching what I'd be learning. And I didn't understand what exactly I'd be teaching, or how I'd be teaching it. But anyway, I immediately said, yes, I'm willing. I was so overcome with the Spirit, I just said, of course I want to help, yes. And then I just began to sob, and everybody was like, it wasn't that touching of a video, right? That great, but I just couldn't stop crying. And it was about a week later that I just went downhill again. And that's when I found out the power of bentonite clay and aged garlic. And this happened again. Months later, I was doing okay. I was fine. I was hanging in there, and then suddenly I crashed super, super hard. And we had to make an emergency run to the West Clinic. My husband was working, my mom had to take me. And it was there that I learned about the Lypo C. So I just feel like everything was very exact. Heavenly Father really was like, hey, this is an exact thing that I need you to learn about. Use, try, experiment with, do more research about. It's going to be a part of what you teach one day. So a lot of this came from that I learned about. But interestingly enough, at the end of this 7.5 years, once I was just really on my feet and doing a lot better, I began researching the health threats that occurred during a disaster. I just naturally became interested in it because my sister had lent me a book, and I'm trying to, Failure of Civility, that was the book. And as I read it, I just thought, my goodness, do people even realize that health threats are kind of a big deal during a disaster, especially a prolonged disaster, that's the main cause of death during a prolonged disaster is infectious diseases. Do people even realize that? And I thought, wait a second, if we're in a big disaster, whether short-term or long-term, and we do not have access to prescription medications or doctors or hospitals because they're so packed, they're out of whatever they have, what are these people going to do? What are people going to do? And immediately, my mind, I couldn't help but think, well, I would do this and this and this and this and this and that. And like with everything that I've learned, with how disease and riddled my body was with viruses and bacteria and all the things that I learned, I thought, well, this is what we need to do. And then interestingly enough, it was only like a couple weeks later, my bishop called me and said, I had a really strong impression to call you to this calling. I'm wondering if you'll accept it. It's a home food production specialist. I'm wondering, and he said, I'm wondering if you'll take the calling, and you can basically do with it whatever you want. I said, I know exactly what I'm going to do with this calling. I'm going to tell people what they can do, what kind of remedies they can store, and also how important it is to increase the nutrition in their food storage to help prevent these infectious diseases from taking a good root hold on your body in the first place. That's a whole other class that I teach about, is food storage nutrition. And he said, okay, 5 weeks. You're teaching the steak in your home, just invite whoever you want over. And I thought, 5 weeks? Wait, I don't even have all this information together yet. And so I taught the class. I was just kind of winging it, still pulling together all the information. Because out of all the hundreds and hundreds of remedies that I used, which ones were the most applicable to the infectious diseases that occurred during a disaster? So it was during that first class that I ever taught that I naively told everybody, tell you what, I'll write a book, and I'll have it done in 3 months. And it'll just have a list of remedies and a list of infectious diseases that happen. And then in the end, this is the book that came to be. It was Beyond Wheat Weeds, and it ended up being a 450-page book that I got done in 3 months. It was totally insane, and it really, I shed tears putting this book together. Because I had that deadline, and I knew what I wanted in it. The book grew and grew. Like in the beginning, I thought, okay, I'll just have the CDC's list of infectious diseases, what they are, and that's a part of what's in the book. What those infectious diseases are, what causes them. I think that's important. So if we can identify what these diseases are and say, oh, okay, here, this is caused by bacteria. So here's the list of herbs that are really good at finding bacteria. These are the ones that I'm going to be working with. These are the ones that I'm going to be prayerful about, pick from, and use. Which one do I actually have in my home? That's what I'm going to use. So after I went and I also include conventional treatment methods for those, what would your doctor do or what would he tell you to do? And also alternative treatment methods. So out of all the remedies that you have, which one of those would apply to those? Which one of those can you use for that? And then also possible folk methods, like what would your great-grandmother, what might she have done for that? But after I put the CDC list together, which I thought that's all that the book would have, but I realized that doesn't even include day-to-day illnesses like strep throat, flu, ear infections, eye infections. What about things like that? People have to know about this stuff. So I put all that together as well. And then after that, I realized, wait a second, there's even more. What about high blood pressure, low blood pressure? What about concussion? What about labor and delivery? And so I put all that together as well. And then I feel like, I put other things in there too, like how can we use some of these remedies to create our own insect repellents? How can we use them to possibly disinfect our water? And some other methods, healing methods in there. So that's what that book is all about. So let me just say, first off, that in the beginning, I started teaching free classes, and I was teaching up to 3 free classes a week. I was just traveling all around Utah and just doing class after class and selling just this one book. And in the beginning, I printed this book for my home. I don't know if you guys knew that. Because I thought, I'll probably sell 1 or 2 a week, maybe. And then my printer started acting up like crazy. Anyway, and it wasn't good, and we were getting over 100 orders a month. And our printer was not going to cut the job. It wasn't going to do it. Okay. But since that time, we now have, I think, 6 products that we sell. So I'm not up here teaching. It's like a little disclaimer. I'm not up here teaching to try to sell you guys on our products. That's not why I'm here. I'm up here teaching information. Like 90% of what I have is not anything that I personally sell or make a profit off of. It's just information that I think is valuable that people need to know about. The products that we do have will be here at the end of the class, so if you want to, you can go over there. My husband will be taking care of that. And we do have the book, by the way. Roseanne specifically requested that we bring the books, and we have books. Okay, so Okay, so health threats during a disaster. I just briefly want to go over this because this isn't in the notes. The main health threats that I think we need to be aware of that occur during a disaster are, first of all, respiratory illnesses. Respiratory illnesses spread very, very quickly, and interestingly enough, they're the main cause of death during a prolonged disaster, especially in children and the elderly. And that's one reason why I speak so passionately about nebulizers. I feel like, you know, out of all the information that I teach, there are certain things that I teach about that I just really feel a strong push from behind me to really get it out into other people's heads and homes. Getting a nebulizer into as many homes as possible is something that I feel very passionately about. So we'll talk about nebulizers a little bit later, but it is one amazingly effective way to help treat just upper respiratory issues, including things like pneumonia and bronchitis. Okay, so another health threat is diarrheal illnesses. That can come for a variety of reasons, whether it's something like food poisoning or illness. So those are things that we need to know how to treat. Wounds is another one. A tiny, tiny little small wound can kill a grown man. And if we just realize that and how important it is to know how to treat wounds, for some reason wounds are something that I just feel very passionate about. Small wounds, but especially very large, open, ugly wounds that you cannot sew shut, that you cannot just put a Band-Aid on. And we're going to talk about that. In fact, I'm going to go in more detail than I usually do with some things today in this class, just because I felt like we need to, and I have 2 whole hours, and that's a good amount of time. So that'll be fun. Okay, constipation is another one. Did you know you can die from constipation? Did you know people die from constipation during a disaster? If anybody here in this room dies from constipation during a disaster, I will come and, I don't know, haunt you in heaven or something once I get up there along with by your side. But it's just so silly to think that some of us, that people can die from constipation. It's so easy to take care of that. Yes?
Older people, if they're constipated and they're trying to go to the bathroom and bearing down to go, they can die of a heart attack.
Or a stroke. They can have a stroke too.
He was
Really?
He was 88, so he was old, but he was in pretty good health.
Okay.
But, so it's very important not to constipate.
It is important. Yes. Okay, so another cause of death during a disaster are vector-borne illnesses. These are insect-derived illnesses, think mosquitoes. Usually this takes place in third world countries, but if you ask me, during a big, ugly disaster where everything's falling apart, I think everything's going to be everywhere. In fact, Lyme disease, it's said that it doesn't even exist in the U.S. Some people say that. I had one doctor tell me that. I said, oh, I have Lyme disease, and he said, you don't have Lyme disease, it doesn't exist here in the U.S. And I said, well, actually, we think I got it in Germany because I had it took on me when I was 12 years old. He said, it doesn't exist there either. I'm like, okay, you're an idiot. I'm out of here. Yeah, but really, what's interesting is that people think Lyme disease comes from just ticks, but it's actually coming from mosquitoes and from spiders as well. It's far more prevalent than we realize. People are being misdiagnosed as having MS, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, some of these other things, and what they really initially have is Lyme disease. So malnutrition is one of the last ones. It's just not getting enough nutrition in our body. And I feel passionate about nutrition, just making sure we have that nutrition in our bodies, because if we have that, I mean, interestingly enough, in poverty-stricken countries, in third world countries, there's one food supplement that I absolutely love. It's the moringa powder. I have a video up about it. And I should mention that. So I have a blog. I have a YouTube channel. My blog's on your handout. It's healthypreparedness.blogspot.com. And there's just a YouTube channel kind of linked to it that every time I post a YouTube video, I put it on my blog along with just a little post about it. But moringa powder is something that I feel passionately about because you're really getting a ton of nutrition into your body. But these poverty-stricken people in, I think it was Africa, I don't know if I'm getting my countries right, but it was some third world country, and they were just sprinkling this moringa powder onto these poverty-stricken people's food, just whatever they were eating, they were just going to put it on there, and they just saw amazing results regarding their ability to defend themselves from sicknesses, but also if they got sick, they got better more quickly. So, and that's something that we can have too, if we're getting enough nutrition into our body during disaster. Okay, so those are the 6 things. Let's go into the handout now. So, Elder Ballard, he says, face the future with optimism. I believe we're standing on the threshold of a new era of growth, prosperity, and abundance. Barring a calamity or unexpected international crisis, I think the next few years will be a resurgence in the world economy as new discoveries are made in communication, medicine, energy, transportation, physics, computer technology, and other fields of endeavor. Many of these discoveries, as in the past, will be the result of Spirit whispering insights into and enlightening the minds of truth-seeking individuals. I love this quote for so many reasons. It says so many different things to me. One of them is that there will be an advancement in medicine. I feel like this is not just modern-day prescription medications. These are natural and alternative medications that are safe, gentle, and mild and super effective for us and our families that we can store in our homes for times to come. And then I also feel like it's just a message of hope. You know, I think most of us are here today because we're feeling like things are a little unsteady out there and that we need to be preparing or at least taking it into consideration. And I think we have definite reasons for that, don't you think? But here he's saying, you know, this was in 2012, so it was only, what, 3 years ago? That wasn't that long ago, and he said there would just be a resurgence in everything. There would just be a growth of all these things. And I think we should just kind of cling to that and recognize that there are amazing things going on. In fact, as I've gone around teaching, I've only started teaching these classes a year ago this month, actually. And it was interesting because I didn't realize this whole world of preppers existed in the world or in my own state. And suddenly I was thrown into this whole world just where people wanted me to teach classes and stuff. And it's interesting, I've met people who it is a lot of doom and gloom, and I don't think we should go there. And I don't think we should be frantic, hasty, rash, fearful. I think we need to be hopeful, clear-minded, balanced, and in a place where we can very clearly hear the Spirit. Because if we're not, Satan actually uses our obedience to his advantage and takes it, and we end up taking that to an extreme. We really just need to be prayerful about these choices that we're making, things that we're learning, whatever we feel like we need to be pulling into our home, and how much of it we should be pulling into our home, if that makes sense. Just because we've met people who are taking out loans and doing other things that are a bit extreme, in my opinion, to help pay for things that will prepare them for the end of the world, which supposedly is supposed to be coming like tomorrow, right? And I don't think we should rely on that, and I don't think we should be that extreme. We need to be wise in things that we choose to do to help us be prepared. Okay, so 5 reasons to store alternative remedies. 1, it gives us an alternate option to storing antibiotics. We can't store life-saving antibiotics. I guess we could if we got some, but legally we're not supposed to, right? We're supposed to throw it away. We're not supposed to share the antibiotics with anybody else. Unless you're a nurse or a doctor and get your hands on it, then you can do that. There are fish antibiotics out there, but you kind of need to know what you're doing there. Which ones are you storing, and when are you going to use which ones for which illnesses? So there's some research that needs to be done there. And you can just get those from like the agricultural store, like IFA, places like that. Okay, number 2, medical help and prescription medicines may not be available. We need other options. Number 3, the alternative remedies, they help support and heal the body in times of illness. Number 4, it increases our chance for survival and optimal health through preventative measures and treatment options. Number 5, diarrheal illnesses, small wounds, respiratory diseases, and constipation are the main killers during a disaster. All of these can be addressed using alternative remedies and a few specific tools. So just to help you understand what all we're going to be covering, there's different categories that I've kind of placed everything into. So there's the alternative remedies, and really all of these can be considered alternative remedies because they're just any remedies used instead of standard medical practice, right? But because the others fit so specifically into their own category, like essential oils, I just threw everything else into alternative remedies. So those are things like castor oil, nascent iodine, silver solution, ASEA, things like that. Essential oils, they're concentrated liquids. These are the little essential oil bottles right here. I think most of us in this room probably know what essential oils are. Concentrated liquids containing medicinal compounds from plants. Herbs, I think we understand what those are too. Just we have our herbal medicines, things like cayenne, elderberry, Oregon grapefruit, olive leaf, etc. And then we also have our homeopathic remedies. And homeopathic remedies come either in tincture-like bottles, or they come in little bead forms. Have you guys ever seen those little beads? And basically, they're not herbs. People always get the terms wrong. They call like herbal medicines homeopathic remedies or homeopathic medicines, but they're kind of 2 separate things. They're both alternative medicines. But with homeopathic medicines, it goes off of like versus like, or like cures like. What's the term? Is it like cures like? I think that's what it says. Is that what it says? I should read my handout. But anyway, what it is the homeopathics is where you take a substance, whether it's plant-based or like mineral-based, you can even take something like mercury, and you dilute it down to such an extent where the substance is no longer in that solution, but it's just the energy of it, so to speak, that's in there. And our body and our immune system still responds to that. So let's say you're sick and you have an illness. There is a rock that is your set of symptoms, right? And it's placed on a trampoline, it's weighing down the trampoline. Well, then when you come in with a homeopathic remedy and you match whatever that homeopathic remedy is, if it matches your set of symptoms, it's like placing a whole other rock on the trampoline, throwing it on there, and they both bounce off. So the tricky thing with homeopathic remedies is there are tons out there, and you have to have the right one that really is very similar to your set of symptoms in order for it to work, because if it's not similar, it's not going to kick that out. It's not going to stimulate your immune system to kick that out. There are a couple homeopathic remedies I recommend in the book, and actually in the future, I don't know when, there's so many things I feel like I've promised people, but I have not gotten around to doing them. I'm working on it. There's a paper that I'm putting together. It's a printable PDF sheet that you can slip in your book. But it goes into homeopathic remedies a little bit more. It has 9 top homeopathic remedies that I feel like are most valuable to have in our medicine kit or in our home storage. Okay, and then we also have nutritional medicines. These are just nutrients to help with proper function. We're going to play a game. I'm just kidding, we're not. I don't know if you guys hate that, but I hate that. You guys are going to have to get uncomfortable, look at the person next to you. Alright, anyway. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to go through the list of remedies here. I'm just going to briefly go over, these are all the remedies that I have in the book, right? I'm going to briefly go over each one of these. So it's going to be just a little tedious, a little fun, right? But I'm going to tell you which one I think is a definite must-have on the ones that I come across, because there are definite must-haves here. There are some that we don't even store a lot of, but I felt like it needed to be in the book anyway. It needed to be taught. But I don't know. Maybe there are just certain people that need to be using those things. Okay, so let's get started. So activated charcoal is the first one. It's just a super, super black, very dusty powder. And it is what it is. It's charcoal. Not charcoal like what you use in your barbecuer, but charcoal from wood or from coconut shells where it's been burned down. And then it's put through an extra oxidative process to help it have a better drawing ability. I have a video up on my blog that talks all about the activated charcoal. It's definitely worth watching. Activated charcoal, it can be used internally to help get rid of things like food poisoning. It helps draw out poisons, bacteria. So hospitals still today use activated charcoal as a remedy for people who come in who have overdosed on medications, and they just run that through their system, and it draws that out of their system, and they eliminate it through their bowel movement. So it also helps with things like gas. You probably recall what that will be during a disaster. And it helps things with things like some viruses and heavy metals as well. Radiation exposure as well. For some reason, I always think of radiation exposure. We need to keep that in mind. What are we going to do when there's radiation exposure? How can we possibly treat our food, but especially treat ourselves internally and even externally? Activated charcoal is a great one for that. The thing that I always tell people, so let me say this before I forget. So topically, you can use it topically as well. So remember how we were talking about ugly, big wounds, even little wounds? You just make a paste with it. Watch my video, but you just make a paste with it by mixing it with water, adding something that helps thicken it up a little bit if you want to help preserve some of this. Because otherwise, if you're just mixing a bunch of this with water, you're having to use quite a bit of your valuable activated charcoal to get it thick enough so that it's not just running all over the place. But if you have a substance that thickens it up, marshmallow root is my favorite because it's an herb and it's soothing, and you need just a small amount to really thicken it up really quickly. So these two work beautifully together, not only because it helps thicken up that paste or I'll call it a paste, that paste that you're creating with this, but it also is great for the wound as well. So you can either soak the limb or whatever it is in activated charcoal water. In fact, on the video, we have a story with my husband who, should I tell the real story, what you really did? I didn't say in the video. We're using this video now, this class is being recorded. He had a cut on his thumb, and it was getting infected, and he thought, if I just run this under really, really hot water for as long as I can take it, then it'll get rid of the infection, right? And I think it probably did, only problem is that he got like a 2nd or 3rd degree burn by doing that, and got a huge blister on his thumb, and it became infected, and he went to scout camp, and he came back, and he's like, this is not looking good. His thumb was red. I mean, you'll see it in the pictures, it's on there, but it's on the video, and on the blog post. But it was just, in fact, we didn't even get the worst picture up on there yet. We need to put the worst one up there. Anyway, but it was red, and he couldn't move his thumb anymore. It was just because his whole thumb had become swollen. And I thought, you know what, let's use activated charcoal. So what we did is we just dipped his thumb in activated charcoal water. So it's just water where we just put like 1 teaspoon of the activated charcoal in there. Had his thumb in there for 20 minutes, and afterwards it just started oozing. Like suddenly it was changing, it was loosening up, it was relaxing. And then we did a poultice using activated charcoal and just a couple herbs that we thought would be good too. It was mainly the activated charcoal I felt that really did the job though. And we applied it on there, saran wrapped it, he slept with it that night, and he woke up that next morning, he's like, I think it's doing something good because I can move my thumb now, and it wasn't stiff, it wasn't inflamed like it was the day before. He just did that for what, 3 days? 3 days, and then his thumb had just healed over. It completely, the blister completely relaxed. It got rid of the infection. It was just kind of a neat experience using activated charcoal. But on the video, I have this really cool link that I found online where it has story after story after story of people, years of stories of how people use this. And interestingly enough, I think this puts it in perspective, but with activated charcoal, people in third world countries consider this just their main medicine. It is so valuable to them, especially for those who can't get to a doctor. They just always make sure that they have activated charcoal on hand. And let me say this, one extra thing. So we were at a park, and my son, he got a wasp sting, and I thought, oh, if only I had something to put on it. I didn't have any of my stuff with me, which is just so silly. I didn't have any Bentonite, which would have been the first thing I turned to, and I didn't have any activated charcoal, which would have been the second thing I turned to. And I remember there was a fire pit close by, so I went over to the fire pit, I grabbed some of the leftover coals, or charcoal I should say, from the burnt wood, and I turned that into a paste, and I applied that, and it was like 10 minutes later, absolutely no pain, and the pain never came back. So just know, activated charcoal is better than just charcoal that came from your fire pit, but guess what, if you don't have this, go to the fire pit, because that's valuable stuff there too. Okay.
Will it last a long time? Do you have to?
The activated charcoal, good question, does it last a long time? Yeah, it's indefinite.
Okay.
There just is not really a shelf life on that. Oh, and then the resources is on here. So I have on here a couple resources. What I would do is what I recommend people do is just look online, look on Amazon, and just look to see what the best price is and just make sure it's food grade. My 2 favorites are making sure it came from either hardwood or from coconut shells. And those are the 3 things that I look for. Is it food grade, is it hardwood, or coconut shells? Those are the things that I look for. Because prices are always changing and adjusting. So, and we're all on tight budgets, need to be careful with our money, so I say we look for the best price. Okay, so aged garlic capsules is another one that I really liked a lot. It was super powerful. This one in particular comes from the Now brand. It's called odorless garlic. When garlic ages, the sulfur content goes up. The sulfur is one of the main medicinal compounds in garlic, and so it just becomes more powerful. I do recommend that people either start growing garlic, because garlic, just raw garlic, is an amazing medicine. You can chop that up and swallow it down, and it can help get rid of viruses, help treat the flu, colds, things like that. You can even lacto-ferment garlic, so just use salt water and preserve it that way in salt water, and it's good for a year or more in just salt water. Let's see, so silver solution, that is a definite must-have. Any of you have ever used it, you probably feel the same way, but okay, let's talk about it. So silver solution, what I'm talking about, I don't even have an example up here. This is our silver maker. But we, a silver solution, there's different brands out there. It's recorded, so I don't want to, okay. No, I will have to say it, because in the book, I talk about the ASAP brand, the ASAP brand, over and over again. The ASAP Silver, and I still love that company. I think they have great people in that company. They've answered my questions just so thoroughly, and I've been so appreciative of it. But when I found out about Silver Immune Booster, a different brand, and you were able to get double the amount for the same price as a smaller bottle for ASAP. And I thought, I can't really recommend that. It's the same thing, and it's less money. And then I had two different people come to me telling me, you really need to meet this guy. He makes his own silver makers. And so my husband and I, finally, we gave in, because there are different silver makers out there, right? You just have a silver rod, you stick it in, it's hooked up to electricity, creates this cloudy substance. Have you guys ever seen those? Nobody here? Okay, well that's called colloidal silver. It's just larger particles. It's kind of being made in an uncontrolled way. So you're just using like tap water, sticking two silver rods in there. The electricity just makes the particles from the silver go off in there. And silver is antibacterial and it's antiviral. But it's especially amazing. It doesn't treat all viruses, let's just say that, but it treats almost every bacteria. So the people at the ASAP company, let me back up just one step further. Remember that doctor I told you about that said Lyme disease doesn't exist here and neither does it exist in Germany? Well, the same guy told me that the ASAP, not the ASAP, but just silver in general, he said it only kills like 8 different strains of bacteria. I thought, well, if that's the case, how would we know A, when to use it, and B, like, it wouldn't even work for very many bacteria at all, and it really bugged me, it just ate away at me. And then suddenly I was heading into church one day, and I had this older couple come to me. They're like, hey, how are you? Our ward had split. They were in our ward before, and I was really sick when we were together then. And so they said, we just are wondering how you're doing. And so we caught up a bit, but then he let me know that he actually worked for ASAP. And I said, I have a question for you. I have this guy who told me that ASAP only kills like 8, 10 strains of bacteria. And there are tons out there, right? So 8 to 10 is nothing. And he just shook his head and said, every bacteria that we've ever tested it against, it killed all of them. Every single one of them. There wasn't one strain of bacteria that it did not kill. Okay, that's awesome. And that answered my question. Yes?
So the silver solution is different than colloidal silver.
Let's talk about those for a second. There's colloidal silver, there's nano silver, and there is, what's the other one? Ionic silver. So colloidal silver is the larger particles. You can go into it a lot more. There's so much controversy out there about it. My husband and I, we're still just trying to really grasp what's the truth out there about it. But so far, the colloidal silver, when you just stick 2 silver rods in there and it's producing electricity, it's just larger particles. It still works good, but because, and we're going to talk about particle sizes in a minute, well, later on, but because the particles are larger, it just doesn't treat things as deeply on a cellular level. From my experience, from what we've researched, it's really good at helping treat acute things, eye infections, ear infections, food poisoning, possibly even things like stomach ulcers that are caused by the H. pylori bacteria, things like that. But if you want to go deeper on a cellular level, and especially help protect the cells, you want to go nano or ionic, or a mixture of the both. Yes?
I just this week was watching a thing on YouTube, and it was from Oprah, and the guy actually that she had on was actually blue from taking.
Let's talk about that. So let's talk about that. What do you think would create that bluing in the skin? The larger particles or the microscopic particles? Let's just say this. The colloidal particles, the people who turn blue, it's called argyria. Those people were drinking tons of it and at super high parts per million. Like it can't even be tested. It's interesting. The guy who taught us how to make these silver makers, he said that he actually replicated. Like there's a famous guy out there who's blue. You see his picture when you look up argyria online. And he said he replicated how he was making his silver, and he said, when I made it, it was just blue in color itself, and he was drinking cups of this for years. This solution, let's talk about 3 different things. Okay, it's the Ionic nanoform. You'd have to drink 98 gallons of it per day for 120 years to get a slight ballooning effect. And even then it's questionable. It's just literally impossible. And the ASAP people told me that themselves. It's impossible to drink enough of this to turn blue because the particles are so small. It's just totally different than these large particles, these large colloidal particles. This is one of the products that my husband and I sell, is the is the Ionic Silver Maker. And it's worth it. Yeah, whatever. I'm not a good salesperson. Can you tell? It's worth it. Buy it today. No, okay, I'll just say whatever, if you want to buy it or not, whatever. It's $150. And for us, it's worth it because when you buy the bottle, that's $30 for 32 ounces. And we would be using that a lot. That's one of the main remedies that we plan on using. And we can make this forever having our own system like this. You can make as much as you want and give it away to people and use it for yourself and for your family. That's just worth it to us. And okay, we're going to talk about why I like that a little bit more because it's one of the only remedies that can be used in a nebulizer and in an enema bag to get medicines into a person's body if they can't hold medicines down, right? Okay.
It's
So,
also great for purifying water, isn't it?
for purifying water, yes, it is. Yep. Okay, so ASEA is another remedy that, this one's interesting because it was not last June, but the June before. I was doing okay once I came to the line, but I was still getting sick really easily, and I just felt like a car that was just like puttering, like it would just break down, and then it would kind of start up, and it would putter again. It just was struggling to function, and I kept saying to myself, I just feel like this is on a cellular level, and I don't understand why. I don't understand how to fix it or what to do for it. And what kept coming back to my mind was ASEA, and this was something that I researched like 2 years prior to this. And all I can remember was that A, it was from an animal company, B, it was like salt water. That's what the solution was. And so at that time I thought, to both those things, right? But then it kept coming back to my mind, and I tried researching it. I tried finding it again online, but I couldn't find it. And then it was 1 week later, I went to a holistic health conference, and these ladies had this beautiful table set up, and they were selling ASEA. And I went straight to one of the ladies. I said, I've been looking for you. Are you an MLM company? She's like, yes, we are. And she gave me one little cup. It was a 2-ounce cup. She said, here, you can try some. So I tried it, and I said, I'll come back and talk more. I need to go off to a class. So I went off to the class, and it was 30 or 40 minutes into the class, and suddenly I just got the worst headache ever. And I have a lot of head pressure. That just came from the lying, structural issues. But an actual full-blown headache where I was just couldn't see, I couldn't think, and my head was hurting so bad. The only time I ever got headaches like that was after spending $300 to $400 on an IV per day. And that was the die-off, right? That was my body detoxing. That was the pathogens dying, my body having to handle that, get rid of that, adjust, heal. And so I knew there was something to that. So I went back to her, I bought a bottle, and I immediately went up to 8 ounces twice a day, the full dose. And I swear this is one reason my Heavenly Father chose me to learn about these things, is because He knows I'm aggressive. He knows that I have a perfect body, just be super ill. And that I would really see if something worked or not. And that's how I am. If I'm going to use something, I want to see what this can do. Show me, what can this do? It was about 6 or 7 days later, I was completely bedridden. Completely bedridden. I could not function. I can't even explain what was going on in my body. I was laying in bed and just moaning. It was really bad. In fact, I took a picture. It was really ugly. I don't know how to show that to you guys. Just picture me at my worst. Anyway, but I realized, okay, I'm taking this too quickly. I need a backup. I went to half that dose, and suddenly it was like a light switch went on in my body. I just thought more clearly. I slept better. My chronic digestive issues, just chronic bloating that I had for like 4 years, went away over time. I took it for about 6 months, so it went away about 3 months into it. And anyway, I just learned some amazing things about it. It's great for things like burns. It's one of the only remedies. There's only like 4 top remedies that I recommend as a nebulizer, and that's one of them. So when I did research about silver, it was when Ebola came out, and a lot of people were saying, oh, silver is the thing, that treats Ebola. They're trying to get it in Africa. They can't get it in there. People are stopping them. We don't know why. Oh, whether all that's true or not, I don't know. But it just sent me researching the silver. And I did find some scientific studies that did say that silver was effective against hemorrhagic type fevers. So that not Ebola specifically, but Ebola is a hemorrhagic type of fever or disease, and it was effective against those. But interestingly enough, they said, well, we tested it with 10 parts per million silver and 22 parts per million silver. And for whatever reason, they weren't sure why, the 10 parts per million was most effective. Not only at, there were some things I didn't say. Not only at killing the virus, but at protecting the cell. So the gentleman who taught us how to make these this silver set, maker, whatever, he has been taking silver for 20 years, and he has gotten sick once during that 20-year time frame where he got dengue fever in a third world country, and he actually had an acquaintance who got sick at the same time that he did, and that acquaintance died within 24 hours or 48 hours, and he said, I just took more silver, and he was fine. He got over it. And I said, okay, 20 years, that's a really long time. Out of all those 20 years that you've been taking silver, and mind you, he only takes 2 to 3 teaspoons per day, but I said, out of all those 20 years, did you ever get anything else? And he thought about it and he said, I had a sty once. That does not count. I feel like there's a saying in the prepping world where one is none. You run out of your one option, well then you have nothing. At least have extra options. Bacteria, pathogens, our bodies, they're all so different. We can't just have one solution, whether it's this, or whether it's the silver, whether it's some of these herbs that say, oh, this is all I need, it's going to hit everything, and we're going to be just fine. Nothing ever works that way. Nothing. What we want is options. I talk about Amanda Smith's story in the book, the Hans Mill massacre, how her son's head was blown off, and the first thing that she did is she dropped on her knees and said, Heavenly Father, I have no clue what I'm doing, help me. And then the second thing is that she had options. He told her what to use, and these things were in her home. And that's the important thing, is that we need to get these items into our home. Just have a basic knowledge of them. Like, I feel like part of my mission is just planting these seeds in people's minds so that they remember them, or that it's called forward at the time when they're needing it. Okay, so baking soda, you can buy the bags of baking soda from Costco or even from agricultural stores like IFA. Big bags of it for very little money, $5, $6. And baking soda has been used, people actually used to drink it when they felt a cold or flu coming on because it helps kick that out of the system. It helps alkalize the body, and it helps get rid of things like acid reflux. So it's and you can even create a paste with it and apply that to burns, apply that to even wounds, but like things like insect bites and stings. Okay, bentonite clay is a definite must-have. I have a video up about that. I would just say, go watch that, because that is really detailed, showing you all the different things that you can do about it. But the basics about bentonite clay, basically, bentonite clay, we have activated charcoal, and that helps draw things out of your body. And it's an electrically charged substance, which is part of the reason why it has a strong drawing capability, because it attracts, did I say it's positively charged? It's negatively charged. And it attracts positively charged substances to itself, and positively charged substances are toxins, are heavy metals, are viruses, things like that. And bentonite clay is also that same thing. I believe it actually has a better, stronger, more powerful, yet still mild and gentle drawing ability, and especially voltage ability, where it has that ability to increase the voltage in our body, so to speak, by giving our body those electrically charged ions. So when we take it internally, it helps drop toxins. I believe that bentonite clay is actually one of Heavenly Father's gifts to us for our day, for us today, because we are constantly exposed to pathogens, heavy metals, pollutants, chemicals, pesticides, and I think it would be very beneficial for us to detox at least every once in a while, or if you wanted to, on a daily basis by drinking bentonite clay. And that sounds terrible, but if you watch my video, you'll see. You just stir it up in a pitcher and allow the clay to settle, and you can stir up some of the clay into the water again, and you're just drinking that. Like, you can just drink the clear water without stirring some of it up in there. I like to get some of the probiotics in there because I really feel like I'm getting something stronger. But you just drink a glass or two per day, and that helps eliminate those things out of our body in a very, very effective way. So, let's see, taking internally, great for things like food poisoning, some viruses, bacteria issues, especially toxins, heavy metals, pesticides, things like that. And then you can also turn it into a gel. So this has the gel inside of it, where you're taking 2 parts. Let me back up just a second. So when you're mixing this into water, you're using 1 teaspoon in a large glass of water. And when you're, if you want to do a gallon of water, you're just using 1/4 a cup in the large pitcher. And you don't want to take it if you're taking prescription medications, because it will do what? We'll draw that out, right? It'll decrease the efficacy of that. So then the gel is super powerful. This is just, let's hope it doesn't pop out. I had that happen in class before. You know, this is my gel right here. It's just a really soft substance that can just smear on wounds really easily. Burns especially. We love this stuff for burns. If somebody has a burn, the first thing I would do is rinse it under cold water to get rid of the heat. You want the heat gone out of that burn, otherwise it just keeps burning in a way. And then we apply very generously the clay. Not only does the clay help prevent bacteria or infection from forming, but it decreases the pain in a very dramatic way. Give it about 15-20 minutes, but because it's adding voltage to the body, it decreases the pain. There's a book that I read, I don't remember the doctor's name, I always forget his name. It's called The Body Voltage, but he talks all about how things grow better. You know, they were doing on amphibians where they'd cut off a tail or something, and if they added just a low amount of voltage, it would grow more quickly or it would grow even longer, like it would grow back even more. But it also decreases pain. So anytime we get a cut or anything on our body, we lose voltage in that area. And when we apply extra voltage to that area, not only does the pain decrease, but the healing speeds up. So it's something good to know about. Yes, question. You and then you, yeah.
Not a question. I've used this for 20 years, and any kind of cut or scrape or whatever, we use clay. And my little 4-year-old, when I first started finding out about it, he crashed on his bike.
I forgot about this.
He crashed on his bike, and I had left and came home, and when I came home, I didn't know that he crashed. He had his nose clear out to here and road rash all over his poor little face, and I looked at my husband and said, "You did put clay, right?" And he said, "No." So we immediately put clay on, and then he had swim lessons, so he was in and out of the pool, and he has no scars from all of that. And so we use clay all the time for any kind of movement. So
Awesome. I love it.
So you said they can't take it internally for taking medication, so you can put it on the skin.
Topically.
Yeah.
Is it for what though?
Like, my husband.
Oh, okay, so if somebody has an injury or a burn,
Yeah.
and they're taking prescription medications, yes, you can take it topically. It's not going to pull it out of the body by that way, right? Good question.
Clarify.
Yes, thank you for asking that. Yes,
Does
question?
that mean prescriptions like your everyday prescriptions, like blood pressure medicine, you know?
Yes, blood pressure medicine, any of those.
So
Yep,
you
it'll drop
drink
right.
that.
What's that?
You couldn't drink that if you were taking those
Um,
everyday prescriptions.
that would be up to you. Whether, because what you can do is you can just take it further apart from those. But you want to do it carefully, probably talk to your doctor about it, see what he thinks. Because it can decrease the efficacy of those, and you would feel that if you're relying on those prescription medications. You don't want to mess with that, especially if it's doing some pretty important stuff for your body. Yes?
How'd you make the clay into a gel?
Oh, yes, thank you. So 2 parts water and 1 part clay. So you can do 2 cups of water and then 1 cup of clay. And it's always best to do the water first and the clay on top, otherwise the clay will just cake up on the bottom. Like in this, I just put that much in there, closed it up. I added a little bit extra water than just the 2 parts and 1 part, and shake it up, and it just turns into the gel. And
I went to a class here in Bountiful, and the guy was making that clay up.
Neil Gosshart, yeah.
And he said, in Bountiful, he goes, I have to use 3 parts water to 1 part clay. And that's what I do. I use 3 parts.
3 parts water, 1 part clay.
Just
Why is
that
that?
There's something in the Bountiful water that just makes
So it
it.
depends on the water then, I guess.
That's what- that's what
Interesting.
he thought.
Okay, so let me tell you a story that he shared. You probably heard it that night about the little girl who burned her hand on the oven unit. Did he tell you about that? So years ago, this was quite a while ago, because this was on an oven that had like the spiral plates, or you know that, I don't know what they're called, the oven unit plates that will heat up. And there was a little girl, I think he said she was about, I don't know, 8 years old, I don't remember those details. But she put her hand on it, it was still hot, and she screamed for her mom, her hand melted to the plate, and her mom came and pulled it off, and there was skin left on there. And she immediately threw her hand into clay gel that was already put together. They had it in a jar, and she just shoved her hand in the jar and pulled it out and just glopped the clay on there, put a bread bag on it. Of course, the little girl was screaming and crying, and she just held her until she fell asleep. And then when she woke up, she said, I want to go ride my bike. So she went outside and she was riding her bike. While she was riding her bike, the mom was scraping off the skin off the blade, right? And every time the daughter came in, she just kind of put the clay back on the sore area, right? Because it kind of would fall off of it. She just made sure there was plenty there. She slept with the bread back on. And then that next morning, it was just light pink skin. It was like not much happened at all. And we have seen this happen in our home. So I had burns, my son had burns. I had another gal, I posted our story, and she said, I just happened to see your story, and my son burned himself on bacon grease. His 4 fingers is just a little one, like 3 or 4 years old. And you just apply the gel on there, keep it on there for as long as you can, usually overnight. And then it's just amazing because the blister doesn't even form, the pain goes away immediately, you have almost nothing left over. It's just an amazing healing substance. Okay, so that's bentonite clay. So there are some essential oils that I recommend that I feel are definitely applicable to issues that arise during a disaster. Breathe essential oil is a really good one. Just having a brief blend to apply on the chest, on the bottom of the feet to help open lungs, to help mucus be expelled from our lungs. I use both of them, they're great. In fact, let me just tell you this. For a while there, using essential oils internally was the only thing that was keeping the brain inflammation under control. My brain stem would go crazy. It would just get really swollen, and then eventually my whole brain anyway. But I would take, it was a mixture. I would take cassia, thyme, clove, oregano. I think those 3 might have been it. Seems like there's one targeting one that's super, super hot. And I would take 3 to 6 drops of each of those at a time, several times a day internally. And I know a lot of people, I would never recommend that because it can actually create stomach ulcers. It's just really hard on the stomach. But fortunately, for whatever reason, I think I was just being protected. But I was able to take that, and that was the only thing that was keeping. I'd have to slather it on the back of my brainstem too, just because it would just help that way too. But taking essential oils internally, that's kind of a controversial thing, but for me, I just really found there wasn't enough that I could slather on myself topically to do what it needs to do to keep that under control, so it was kind of a learning experience for me. There is a blend that I really like. It's thyme, clove, and oregano. Those 3 together are beautiful, and they work so effectively for all kinds of issues. You just put it in a capsule, take it internally, usually about 1 to 3 drops of each of them. And it's just really powerful at taking care of all kinds of like flu issues, things like that. Okay. Yes, yes. Oh, you're waiting. I thought you were really anxious to ask a question. Okay, so let's move on. Castor oil. So castor oil is a good one. It's mentioned in my book over and over again. That one's really good at just boosting the immune system and cleaning out the lymph system. It's great at that. And also, it could possibly be used to treat constipation. So you take that internally, you down it, it's really nasty, I've done it in the past. And also with like yeast issues, it can actually help with that as well. Okay, Cayenne is a definite must-have. So it's so inexpensive. I mean, this is my really sad looking demo up here, but this is, you can just get it from an herbal company. Some of my favorites are Mountain Rose herbs, or there's San Francisco Supply or something. And there's also Frontier, that's a really good one. There's just a lot of great herbal companies that you can buy it from. But basically, there's so much to say about it. Okay.
Is it different than just the cayenne and the baking oil? Is it different?
Yes. I I mean, almost no, cayenne is cayenne. But cayenne in a grocery store shelf, what have they put in it? What have they done with it? It just isn't clean and pure. If you don't want to be using that as your medicine, go to an herbal company where they really care about the quality of their herbs. And okay, so with cayenne, using it topically, you can mix just tiny amounts of it into a lotion of some kind or a salve and apply that onto joints that are just hurting, achy, swollen, arthritis, things like that. But it's especially known for stopping bleeding. So should you have a wound, first of all, let's talk about wounds. If you have a wound and it's bleeding, what do? Apply pressure, yes. Just apply pressure. Simple pressure alone usually takes care of the bleeding almost every time. If for whatever reason you can't get it under control, or you're just kind of freaking and panicking out because you cut your finger and it's bleeding like crazy and you just want that to go away really bad, just put some like cayenne powder or create a little paste with it by mixing a bit with water, apply that onto the wound, and it'll stop the bleeding almost immediately. People always say, wouldn't that burn really, really bad? Well, interestingly enough, cayenne actually has properties in it that numbs it at the same time. So it actually doesn't burn or hurt as bad as you think it would. I personally, let me just say this, I personally would turn to Yarrow powder first because it does the same thing, but there is no sting whatsoever involved with it, nor might you accidentally get it in your eyes or like breathe it in, which would create a whole other set of problems because cayenne is so strong. There's always so much that I learned from people and the experiences that they have. In fact, one story, a cayenne story, came from a gal who went to one of my seminars. I teach like all day seminars where we do hands-on stuff or making all this stuff. And she was there, and we were talking about the cayenne, and she said, I have a story I want to share. She had twins, she had delivered the second child, and she began hemorrhaging pretty badly, and she passed out because of the loss of blood, and her midwife gave her Yarrow tincture in her mouth, and then applied the Yarrow to her lower abdomen, upper thighs, and it stopped the bleeding completely. So to me, that's like a modern day story. You always hear about all these other past stories where they use things like that, but it's miraculous today too. So, okay, what to say? So there's a doctor by the name of Dr. Patrick Jones. I've learned a lot from this man. He's a veterinarian out in Idaho. He uses cayenne and yarrow a lot in his practice as he does surgeries and has these trauma injuries, animals come in. And he has said that he's used a cayenne tincture. We're going to talk about tinctures a little bit, but he's used a cayenne tincture so many times to save animals' lives that he's stopped counting. When you have a cayenne tincture, you can help treat shock, you can help treat heart attacks. You can give a tea too, like a cayenne tea for heart attacks. It just helps get the blood going, it helps thin the blood. And for a case of shock, I see cayenne as almost something similar to like a heart defibrillator, just something that gets the system going. So shock or even drowning, like near-death drowning situations where the person is, where circulation is not getting to the organs and the person's just kind of shutting down, right? You put a squirt of cayenne in the mouth, and can you imagine, it's not very pleasant. Have you guys ever gotten cayenne anywhere on your body, where like close to your eyes or in your nose?
We put it in water, so it's not quite so bad.
Yeah, you can put it in water. But with, it's just really handy to just have that tincture right there and squirt it in their mouth. But it just shocks the person and just wakes them up. And it is not pleasant for them, but it is the last result, and it is a resort, and it is an option that we can turn to in a case of shock or a heart attack or even near drowning, things like that. Near drowning, drowning, near death, whatever. You guys get what I'm saying. Okay, cloves essential oil is another great one. I think of toothaches. What would we do during a disaster about toothaches or preventing toothaches? Cloves is a great one. If you have a tooth infection, not only does it numb it, but it actually helps kill the bacteria that's causing an infection in the first place. So you just apply it onto the tooth. One of my favorite things for toothaches is bentonite clay. I have a toothpaste recipe on my blog. You just go to the extra articles and additions tab, and it's right there. Not that you need to have this elaborate toothpaste recipe, because it kind of has fractionated coconut oil, and it has minerals, liquid minerals. It has all these different things. I really think it can be something as simple as water and bentonite clay, but it does amazing things for the teeth. Not only like brushing with the bentonite clay. Have you guys ever seen the bentonite clay toothpaste? Or know people who are crazy enough to brush with it? Yeah.
So is it called earth paste though?
Earth paste,
I
yeah.
love it.
I know, it's great,
It's
isn't it? But not only does it help mineralize the teeth, but it has silica, which helps build up the teeth, and it helps add voltage to the teeth, and it helps just draw any bacteria. It's just good for the teeth all around. But if you have a toothache, or for example, there was one gal from a seminar who told me that her husband had a root canal tooth. The root was infected, he was in a lot of pain, and he applied a paste, he just made a glob of the gel, put that on his tooth and just packed his tooth with it. And then our saliva just kind of breaks it down, but he would just reapply it as needed. And he had that on there for, she said he had it on there for like a few days, and the pain just completely went away. And so the toothpaste recipe story is that there was my friend's sister-in-law. They had a son who had several teeth that were hurting him, and it was due to cavities. They could see it was cavities that were bothering him. And they didn't have the money at that time to go take him to the dentist to take care of those. So they did some research, read that some people had success using toothpaste, Bentonite clay toothpaste, and they started brushing his teeth with it. And the pain just went away, but they said, well, we still need to take him to the dentist. And they took him to the dentist, the doctor's like, oh, no cavities, nothing. The cavities actually went away. And this happens again and again to people who brush their teeth with bentonite clay. Okay, that was a bit of a tangent. Okay, so colostrum or astragalus, that's a good one to help boost the immune system. When you're dealing with an illness, you can go into the system, into the body in different ways. You can either pick a substance that will kill the bacteria, the pathogen, the virus, whatever it is, or you can also, I would say also, pick something that will help boost the immune system, just shoot it up, right? Something like colostrum astragalus is something good to know about, possibly have on hand. A dandelion tincture is a good blood cleanser, liver cleanser. So a lot of times after you're sick or after you've overcome an illness, it's kind of good to cleanse afterwards. Help get those pathogens, those leftover dead things out of your system, out of your body. Dandelion tincture is one to consider taking. Diatomaceous earth is a definite must-have. I don't have a sample of that up here, but it looks a lot like bentonite clay powder. Only the substances are different. It's like a cylindrical shape that has sharp edges, and it actually is slight abrasive, like as it goes through our system, it's just abrasive, and it just helps kind of clean out our digestive system. It's great for parasites. That's one of the main things that I think about it during a disaster situation, because we will be dealing with parasites, more than likely, during a prolonged disaster. Diatomaceous earth is a great thing to take internally for that, and it's one of the most effective alternative remedies for lowering cholesterol levels. Also, it's great when you use it. It's not really good. I have a video. You'll have to go watch it. But I compare bentonite clay, diatomaceous earth, and activated charcoal. I compare all three of those. What are their strengths, and how can they be used? And there's a printable PDF sheet, so that for every situation, well, almost like all the ones I can think of at the time as I put it together, for things like burns or things like parasites or whatever it be, which one would be the best option first? Would it be clay? Would it be diatomaceous earth? Or would it be charcoal? It's just, all three of them are so similar in what they do, but yet some of them do things the other ones don't. It was just good to have that all there. Okay. So diatomaceous earth can also be used for things like garden bugs or lice, just bugs in general. A digestive essential oil.
What do you mean for bugs? Like,
Bugs,
around or?
so fleas, garden bugs, I already said that, or what are the bed bugs? Bed bugs.
Well, what do you do with it though? I mean, like,
Oh, you just apply it on wherever the bug issue is at. And the diatomaceous earth then covers it, and it breaks away their exoskeleton. They basically dehydrate to death. So it just kills bugs, which is one reason why it works for parasites in our body. And it too is negatively charged, and so it attracts positively charged substances to it. So as it passes through our body, it's doing the same thing that clay and activated charcoal do. It draws those things to it, helps eliminate that from our body. But it doesn't work quite as good as a detoxifier as the bentonite clay and activated charcoal. There are little things like that as you work with it and you know things about it, that you know, okay, if I want to detox, this is what I want to use. That's what the whole paper's for. Just go print it off. Put it in your home storage. Okay. A digestive essential oil blend. We're going to be dealing with all kinds of digestive issues, coming all the way from one end to the next. Heartburn, stomach issues, stomach cramping, diarrhea, vomiting. To have something like a blend. It just will be so wonderful to have that, to be able to take it internally, whether you're drinking it down a bit or you're putting it in capsules, to help calm all that down, to help calm down the nausea, the vomiting, even stop it completely. The stomach spasming, it's just amazing for that. And you can put it on the bottom of the feet for the same thing. And it's interesting because my brother-in-law, he always gets heartburn after he eats dairy things, especially ice cream. And we were at my mother-in-law's house, and I said, well, why don't you try some of her Young Living, digestive blend. Peppermint oil, which works great for digestive issues too, along with reducing fevers or just putting it down the spine. Okay, yes. Peppermint oil is another great one. In fact, if I were to add anything else to this book, it would be peppermint essential oil. I don't have it in here. Yeah. Okay, so Dr. Christopher's anti-plague formula, that's a great one to know about. If you feel like that's something you need to be getting, research it a bit. It's great for all kinds of illnesses. Elderberry is a definite must-have. It has been proven again and again as to how effective it is at killing off all kinds of viruses, especially flu-related viruses. You can create a tincture with it. You can create, or just take it as a tea. It's really easy to use it. Glutathione, it's one of the best antioxidants. What's that? Oh, we're getting there.
Okay.
So once I get to olive leaf, remind me, I'm actually going to make a tincture and show you how easy it is. I want everybody in this room, I don't usually do this either in these classes, but I always am careful about what I teach about when I come to these classes. There are certain things I feel like I need to teach. This is something I need to teach today. I need to teach you guys how simple it is to create one of the most effective medicinal medicines that we can come across and that we can make in our home and use for our families. So I'll get there. Okay, glutathione, one of the best antioxidants. It's definitely good to take that one into consideration. Golden seal or Oregon grapefruit. Oregon grapefruit is actually the one that I choose over golden seal. Golden seal is super powerful, but it's expensive and it's rare. Is that the right word? Rare? It's whatever. There's very much of it on this planet. Oregon grapefruit is very comparable to golden seal tincture. Amazing for bacteria issues, especially. This is Oregon grapefruit powder. And real quickly, let's talk about this. So people always say, well, okay, if I buy these herbs, how do I store them? Well, just get them in a place where they're in an oxygen-free environment. Whether you're using Food Saver, whether you're using the jars where the Food Saver vacuums out all the oxygen, just get the oxygen out and it'll last longer. Usually herbs like this, you see how it's like somewhat cut up? Herbs like this usually last 2 to 3 years. And that doesn't mean it goes bad, it just means the medicinal and nutritional properties start to go down, start to deplete over time. And if you have a really old bag, what does that mean? Does that mean you should throw it out? It just means you just need to use more. And that's all that means. But if you have a bag like that, or just herbs like that, where it's just kind of cut up like that, 2 to 3 years, but if you like put it in a Food Saver bag, or take out the oxygen, a Mylar bag, put in oxygen packets, it'll last at least 2 to 3 years longer than that. Almost doubles the amount of time that it stays good. With powders, you're doing the same thing. Just know that powders don't last as long as the bulk form, the cut and sifted form. But like some things just come in powders. Turmeric root powder, that's how you want to buy it. Cayenne powder, buy it in powder. Just get it in an oxygen-free environment so it'll last longer. And if you turn it into a tincture, it'll last indefinitely, forever. Especially if you're, well, I should say only if you're using an alcohol-based solvent in the tincture. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so grapefruit seed extract, it's these cute little bottles. They're only like $10 and they're so powerful. This can be used for bacterial issues, fungal issues. It's just, you just use drops of it. You can get it from health food stores, get it from Amazon. It's worth getting. So this brand is Nutribiotic. And there's some controversy out there right now because they changed some of what they, like how they make their grapefruit seed extract. And some people say you need to buy the extra strength that says don't take internally. But we are still having success with this one. So it's up to you whether you choose the extra strength that's not meant to be taken internally or whether you get this bottle right here where you get a lot more of it.
So is it good for like toenail fungus then? So let's use it.
Toenail fungus, I would try it on that. Or I would try olive leaf extract, taking that internally. And you can make a poultice with it and apply that on the toenail fungus externally. Okay, hydrogen peroxide is a great one to just know about, possibly have on hand. Nascent iodine. I don't have a sample of that one up here, but it's, so iodine is a powerful antibiotic, interestingly enough. up. And when you take it in atomic form in mason, like this mason iodine, you can actually take larger amounts of it, as long as you don't have like serious thyroid issues, because if someone has thyroid issues, you don't want to give them a ton of iodine ever. But it can be used in higher dosages for that. And it too is one of the only remedies, very, very small amounts, that I would use in a nebulizer mixed in water for lower respiratory issues. Okay, so laxative or senna leaf, that can be, that's a given, right? Why would we want something like that? Constipation. Because nobody in this room is going to die from constipation. Lavender essential oil, that's a great one to have. It's just so soothing, so healing. If you have a bug bite, a sting, it just helps soothe that, helps decrease inflammation. I mean, it's just a relaxing herb to have on hand as well, but if you mix it in water and spray it on a burn, it just really helps reduce the pain on a burn. Lomatium root tincture, that one's a fun one. So one thing that I did is I collected this information for the book so I could teach it other people. So I went back to all my favorite doctors, even like health food store employees, anybody that I really felt like knew a lot. I said, what would you tell people storing their food storage for the illnesses that they might be facing during disaster? And grapefruit seed extract was one of them that a health food store employee told me about. I've just taken things that I asked from them and also classes that I've taken and just compiled the information from those in here. But I learned from a lady called Darcy. Her nickname is Darcy from the Forest. Have you guys ever heard of her? She's just an herbalist, one of the best herbalists in the Western U.S., I think. There are a lot, but she's one of them. And she, actually, I went on an herbal walk with her, and we dug up some lomatium root, and she's like, this root right here is the best antiviral medicine in the world. And it's interesting because one doctor who I've been to time and time again, that's what they gave me a lot was lomatium root. And this is it right here. So this is a lomatium root tincture that we're making ourselves. And let me tell you this, so I think the resource on here isn't right. What does your resource say?
Pure formulas. Pure formulas.
Okay, that's a good place to get it from. But what I would do is, I don't know her exact website name, but if you search Darcy, D-A-R-C-Y, from the Forest, you'll find her website. You'll see it's like an Idaho number, area code 208. And she has lomatium that you can buy from her, whether it's already in tincture form, and she knows what she's doing. So that is like the best lomatium root tincture that you can buy. Or make yours for a fraction of the cost by buying the root from her. I was telling somebody this story earlier today. Usually when you buy roots from an herbal company, you get it in chopped form. It's all chopped up, these nice little dry pieces. So I bought 4 pounds of the lomatium root from Darcy, and I get this package in the mail, and I open it up, and I lift up this huge, ugly-looking root, 4 pounds worth of this ugly root. It was so funny, because you're like, what is that? I'm like, it's lomatium. And so we washed it off really good. I had my youngest son chop it up with an axe. He was just out there chopping it up. And really, it does chop up really easily. So if you feel like it'll take a lot of muscle strength, it won't. It's actually a very soft root. Chops up really easily. And then we took those pieces, put it in the blender, and then we just add alcohol to it. So I'll just talk about that right now. Let's talk about making a tincture. A tincture is where you take a herbal medicine, a plant medicine, a plant-containing medicines, I should say, and you're just basically covering it with a solvent, something where it'll draw and pull in or pull out all of its nutrition, all of its nutritive, what's the right word, all of its nutrients, good grief, all of its nutrients, and especially the medicinal properties in it, into the solvent, into the liquid that you put in there. The 3 top solvents that you want to use for making a tincture are alcohol, like vodka, 100 proof vodka. That doesn't mean 100% alcohol. 100 proof is just no. When you go to the liquor store, I know that might be uncomfortable for some of you, but just go do it. 100 proof vodka is what you're wanting to get, okay? 100 proof. There are other ones, like some people use 80 proof, some people get really technical. I just don't think it should get that technical. When it gets really technical, that's when we think, this is over my head, I can't do it, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do this. But this is the folk way people used to make it. They would just pour the solvent over the herbs, strain it after 2 to 4 weeks, and then they had their medicine, and you give the person, it's usually almost always 30 drops for an adult. 30 drops, and however many times you feel like is right. Whether it's 3 times a day, which is a normal dose, or every hour, because you're needing to really kick something out of the body, right? So with this, we're going to make an olive leaf tincture right now. So you just place some of your herb into the jar. I hope I don't make a big mess.
What were the other solvents that are good?
Oh, I'm so sorry, the other solvents. I really like the vodka one. Okay, vodka, and then there's apple cider vinegar and food grade glycerin. Food grade glycerin is really sweet, and so kids like to take that one a lot. It just tastes better. But food grade glycerin. But either way, the apple cider vinegar and food grade glycerin just do not have as great of a drawing power. It doesn't create as strong of an herbal medicine. You know, some people, they have issues with the alcohol issue, and they say, well, am I drinking that? Is that bad? If you have issues with it, put the drops in your cup of water and let it sit for 2 to 3 minutes, and almost all of the alcohol is evaporated out of it. There's no alcohol left in there, and you have the medicine that's left in your cup, right? Okay, so we put some of the herbs in there. I'm going to fill it up just a little bit more.
Do the apple cider vinegar, doesn't matter if you use like the homogenized or?
If you're using apple cider vinegar, by all means use the raw kind. The Bragg's brand, there are other great raw brands out there now too. So this is the 100 proof vodka, and then we have, this is olive leaf in here, and we'll talk about olive leaf in a little bit. This is going to take a while. So you just cover it up, and basically all you're going to do is cover it up to the point where there's about 1.5 inches that covers it. Some herbs absorb the vodka more than others. And you'll know because the next day or a couple days later, it's just really thick and it's not moving around very much. So you know, oh, I need to add a little bit more of the vodka so that it just sloshes around and makes a big mess. So, okay, sorry, this is one of the plastic jars and they do have a hard time. But you just want it sloshing around, right?
So how do you mix that when your teenagers going around?
What's that?
Teenagers going around?
Well, it's funny because my son, he's like, I don't know if I like having all this alcohol in the house. I'm like, you know what? So we just sat down and we're like, okay, let's talk about medicines here and how, because with anything, you can abuse anything. We can abuse the vodka and become drunk, stop with it, and ruin our life, our family's life, but that's not a good thing, and we're using it for medicines, for medicinal purposes, and it's blessing benefiting our family. But basically then, you just keep it in a dark place and shake it once every 1 or 2 days and leave it there for 2 to 4 weeks. I always do 4 weeks. And then after it's sat there for 4 weeks, you strain it. Find some sort of material, whether it's a cotton shirt, an old cotton shirt that you washed or something. I use something like chiffon. You just go to your fabric store in Walmart. Just find a material that would, you know, you can tell would just be a good material to just strain it.
Like cheesecloth.
I hate cheesecloth.
Oh.
I hate cheesecloth because you have to layer it, and then all the stuff gets stuck inside of it, and then washing it out, I hate cheesecloth. Okay, so I would just use chiffon. I mean, if you like cheesecloth and you've used that and you love it and you've mastered it somehow, I don't know, I just have issues with it. But I like to use just something as simple as chiffon. There's another name for it too. I don't even remember what it was. What's that? Trico? Trico? No, but maybe that might work. I don't know what that is. I almost had it. What's that?
That's what slips are made out of.
Slips are made out of
Trico.
You know those really poofy skirts that little girls wear?
Oh, yeah.
Tulle. That's it. Tulle. It's spelled kind of cool. Yeah, so something like that. Anyway, it really doesn't matter what we're using. If we want to use cheesecloth, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to shoot that down so quickly. But then, okay, 2 to 4 weeks, strain it, put it in like a tincture bottle of some kind. Something that has a dropper, preferably. And this, especially if you've used the vodka, it'll last indefinitely. This is a Label it, of course, always label it, like when you put it in there, what it is, and then what it is, and when you tinctured it, or put it in the bottles. But, and then you just, if you used the vodka, it'll last indefinitely, forever. If you used the apple cider vinegar, it'll last for probably, I don't even know how long. You need to keep it in the fridge and it'll last there for a year or more. If you use the glycerin, same thing, keep it in the fridge and it'll last there for about a year or more.
The vodka, you don't have to put in the fridge.
With vodka, you do not have to put it in the fridge. It's just,
Should it still be served in darkness though?
and no, it doesn't need to be, in a dark bottle it would be good.
Okay.
If you keep it in the sun or the light, no matter what, the sun or light just kind of breaks down things, no matter what it is.
And plastic or glass was it better for the?
Glass would be best. I wouldn't store my tinctures
But for actually making it, doesn't it?
in plastic. But what?
But when you're actually making it, with your preference, would you put it out?
I use glass throughout the whole process.
So do you just throw out the rest of your things?
You do throw out the rest of the herb, yeah, because it's just depleted the nutrients from the medicines after that. Yeah. Yes.
Where do you get those dark glass bottles?
From Industrial Container Supply Company. They're out in the West Valley area, Industrial Container Supply Company. Okay, so that's how you make a tincture. Do you guys think you can do that?
Yeah.
It's so easy. If it's a pretty severe health issue and you don't want to take the alcohol for that, let it sit longer, let it sit 5 to 10 minutes. But almost all of it will be evaporated. Especially if you use warm or hot water, it'll make it evaporate more quickly and be more effective at making it evaporate. It just makes it evaporate out, the warm or hot water will. Okay.
How many, you just said how many drops?
So 30 drops, 30 to 45 drops per dose, 3 to however many times a day, 3 to 8 times a day. And then for children, it's always just decrease that by that.
Just straight or water?
In water.
You drop in the water.
Yeah, it's really strong, the alcohol's really strong. Okay, so Lypo C is a definite must-have. It comes in boxes like this. The resource, I actually like a different resource for that. It's naturalhealthyconcepts.com. Okay, vitamin C. Vitamin C, most of us know that when we're getting the flu or cold, it's great to take vitamin C. A lot of times it kicks it out of the system, and it's been proven again and again that if we're taking extra vitamin C, it reduces the amount of time, the length of time that we have a cold or illness or whatever it be. But we can actually make a dose on vitamin C very safely by taking it in a lipospirit form. And it is amazing at keeping out all kinds of illnesses. When I crashed really hard, that one time we had to make an emergency run to the West Clinic, I was so down. I was so angry. I was so worn out. I was so done with being sick. And I was just angry. I was just angry at that point. Just why? Here I am raising my 4 kids, and I basically didn't even have a real life or time to have a chance to be a mother while they were so young because I was so sick all the time. And I've been doing everything I could think of, everything, just trying so hard to get better. And then here I was, totally crashed, had my mom bring me out there, just inconveniencing everybody around me. And then I get there, and I'm, hooked up to the IV, just so down. And I just hear a lady, like 4 recliners down, also getting an IV, talking about this Lypo C. And everything inside me just says, listen. And I just thought, okay, this is why I'm here. And I listened to what she was talking about. She said how it helped her recover from Lyme, totally changed her life, blah, blah, along with the IVs. And so I talked to her afterwards, got more information about it, tried, ordered this, tried some, had massive die-off, knew it was working, did more research, found that there is a doctor by the name of Dr. Thomas Levy, who is the biggest advocate for vitamin C IV therapy, which, by the way, I should mention this, in the IVs, I was getting 50,000 milligrams of vitamin C in my IV in a 3 to 4 hour period of time. It was like the main medicine, nutritional medicine, that I was getting to help turn things around in my body. But he, in his book, titled Curing the Incurable, he talks a lot about the vitamin C IV therapy, but he now has added an addition to his book where he says that He believes that this liposphere form is actually more effective than IVs in many cases because it requires less energy for our body to use it, and it's just really effective. What it is vitamin C on a microscopic scale that's encoded in a fat layer, and when we take it, it bypasses the digestive system and goes immediately to our cells and goes to work. So it just has an amazing effect. Once again, not everything is the cure-all for everything, but having this on hand would be a huge blessing. It's rather expensive. For 30 packs, which is what comes in the box, it's $30. Each little packet is $1. This is what the packets look like.
So you just take it when you're sick?
So you just take it when you're sick. You could take it as a preventative if you want to spend all much money. But what we use is, okay, let's say this, with alternative remedies, you want to hit the body hard with it and show the pathogens, the illness that you mean it. You're going to hit the body with it again and again and again until you can see that the symptoms are subsiding. If it's not subsiding, whatever you're giving the person, it's not hitting it, move to something else. Once you see that it's hitting it, it's knocking it down, the person's getting better, by all means don't stop once the symptoms seem like they're basically gone. You want to continue on and keep giving them whatever it was that you were giving them that was working. Because so often, time and time again, when we stop, even though we feel like, okay, the person should recover on their own now, the illness creeps back up, and more than likely, that whatever remedy you were giving them that knocked it out of their system will no longer work because whatever pathogen was causing that illness has become resistant to it and it's crept back up. You have to find something new that will hopefully work for that. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is a valuable item. It's expensive. Most of us probably won't have a ton of it stored. But if you're giving this to somebody and it's knocking out whatever they have, then once you feel like things are under control with them, move on to, usually I have the bottle with me, but it's like the Now brand. It looks like this, but it's vitamin C crystals. It's ascorbic acid. It's just a powdered form of vitamin C. And that's what you'll move on to. That's what you'll transition to because you can store a lot more of this because it's just not quite as expensive. You can get it from Amazon and you only have to use half a teaspoon, might be 1/4 of a teaspoon. Half a teaspoon to get 2,500 milligrams of vitamin C. So for a child, you're only giving them like 1/8 of a teaspoon or 1/4 of a teaspoon. And what you're doing with this vitamin C is, pretend like this is the vitamin C. With the vitamin C is you're giving it to the body again and again and again until you reach like their threshold. And you'll know because gas and bloating and diarrhea might occur. That's when you know, okay, we need to back down some. But you want to give them as much as their body can handle and take because it's those higher amounts of vitamin C that will really make the big difference. Okay, so magnesium chloride, that's a great one. Good for just making sure the cells are functioning right. For me, it's more of a preventative than anything else. Melissa essential oil, that's a great antiviral. Super, super powerful antiviral. If you feel like you need to get that, it's really expensive. Butterfly Express actually has, no wait, I'm thinking of frankincense. Butterfly Express has frankincense. It's pretty comparable to doTERRA. Not quite as effective from the research that I've done, people that I've had tested and stuff. But anyway, Melissa essential oil is expensive. There are other things that I personally use instead of that, but just know that this is an option. Question?
Yeah, so how long would you try one thing before moving to another thing?
How long would I try one thing before moving on to the other thing? It's so different every time you fill it out. If the illness is pretty hard hitting, you need it, I don't know, a couple days, I'll say a couple days.
Is that the minimum?
Yeah. And really, okay, so how do we know which remedy to use? First of all, we know because of the basics that we know about it, but we really need to be careful about it. That's what, because there are so many different things. How do we know if it'll hit that exact bacteria or that exact virus and knock it out of the system? And then just through our own experience too, we'll say, okay, this looks like this, I used this in the past that hit that, and just, so through our own experience and through what we feel like is right, through prayer. Okay. Or there are things like muscle testing. A lot of people are into muscle testing, and that's a way to test the body to see, okay, is this work? Will this kick it out? Well, you know. But you really kind of have to know what you're doing there so you get some good, solid answers. Liquid minerals, that also is more of a preventative, but great for all sorts of issues. Olive leaf extract. So that was the tincture that we created, that I spilled all over the place. Olive leaf extract, it's interesting because putting the remedies in this book together was a very, I just turned to the Lord a lot. I had hundreds of remedies, and I used my brain, of course, saying, hey, this does that, and this would be applicable for these things during disaster. But I also, like, at the very end, I said, Heavenly Father, this is my list. Is there anything else I need to add to this list? And just very clearly, it came olive leaf. And I thought, okay, I've heard of that, And I did my research, and I put in the book where it was applicable. And then I started teaching these free classes, throughout Utah. And in the beginning, I just was holding up like this little bottle, like, olive leaf, read it, olive leaf. It's really good. And it's like $12 for like 30 capsules. And yet I felt this huge push. You know how I said, sometimes I just feel pushes coming from heaven, whatever you want to call it, just saying, really push this, let people know about this. And I thought, I don't know, I need to learn more about it. Why do I keep feeling this? Every time I taught a class, I kept feeling that. And I was recommending the olive leaf brand that had 12 to 20% oleoprene, because that's the main medicinal compound. That was the strongest, that was the best. But you had to spend like $15 for a very small amount. And I just kept thinking, people need more than this dumb little whatever. I just wanted to toss it out the window. It just drove me crazy. So I ended up reading a book called Olive Leaf Extract by Dr. Morton Walker. Excellent book. Wants to really grasp what olive leaf can do. Excellent book. So well put together, very well researched information, scientific evidence as to how great this stuff works. And then I ended up purchasing the olive leaf from Mountain Rose Herbs and compared it in taste. Like I put some on my tongue here, I put some there, and in fact, if you want to, I dare you guys to come and put some in your mouth and just chew it up. And I want to see the looks on your faces. It's super bitter, but it's that bitter taste that is the oleoprene. And when I compared the two, I said, there's so much of a difference here. This is good enough. I know it, I feel it, I taste it. This is good enough. And then like this, like a 2-pound bag, this isn't all bagel, but a 2-pound bag is $18. You can make all kinds of medicine with that. Turn it into a powder, put it in capsules, turn it into a tea, drink that bitter tea, try to get it down your kid's throat somehow. Put it in, create a tincture with it, and that's the easiest way to get that in there. But so what is it good for? It's good for just about anything. Just about anything, whether it's viruses, whether it's bacteria, whether it's funguses. I wish I had the list that Dr. Morton Walker puts in his book. He goes through and just says all these different things, just all these different illnesses and diseases, things I haven't even heard of. And it's just amazing. Like, if you don't know what to turn to, all of these kind of a really good one to turn to for just about any issue, if you're not sure what to use. Okay, oregano essential oil, great antibiotic alternative. It's such a powerful antibiotic alternative. Probiotics, it's good to restore the gut for somebody's been ill, especially with diarrhea. Just restore that good bacteria to help keep their immune system strong. Slippery elm, that's a really good one. I'm going to go on a tangent. Okay, so slippery elm is in my book, right? And I talk a lot about like using it for wounds and things like that, but actually I continue learning things. And what I would use for wounds, big, open, ugly wounds, is an herbal mixture. Well, 4 things. Can we just go on a tangent? So there are 4 things that I would use for, okay, I'm going to show you something graphic for, this is a dog's leg, by the way, it's not human, for large, open, ugly wounds. Okay, this is Dr. Dr. Patrick Jones. I get the 2 doctors mixed up. It was a dog, a 6-month-old dog that came to his clinic that he was on the back of his truck. I'm sorry. She's like,
I'm just not looking.
I know. Okay, I know, it's so sad. But you'll see it. He was fine at the end. You'll see it. Okay. But he was on the back of a truck bed. So he came in, and the first thing that he did, of course, was make sure the bleeding was under control. And then he washed it off really, really well. How would you wash off a wound? One of the things, I'm going on lots of tangents here, shoot. I love ketchup bottles. 99-cent ketchup bottles from the dollar store or from Walmart. If we have a wound, we need to wash that out very thoroughly. If it's a deep wound, just gouge, whether it's a large open wound, we need to get any debris, any dirt out of there, pebbles, whatever, out of the wound, wash out underneath tissue, because wounds get really ugly and really messy. And just YouTube it, wounds, stitches, things like that. You see how there's like just different layers that you really need to make sure washed out. But you need to have something that has pressure. And something simple, like you can use something like a Ziploc bag, cut off the tip and kind of squeeze it for the pressure. something as simple as a ketchup bottle, this is the thing that I like. Just really getting, you don't want to go too crazy with it, but get the pressure on there. Treat the person for shock if they're needing it. You can use Cayenne, or you can use, this is, usually I don't teach about this, but it's a Bach remedy, B-A-C-H remedy. It's called Rescue Remedy, is that what it's called? Rescue Remedy. It's really great for shock, just calming the person down. So back to the picture. Sorry, ladies in the front. So you can create an herbal poultice, which is what Dr. Patrick Jones did, and he applied it onto the wound. And he just packed it on there and then wrapped it up. And why would he wrap it up?
Keep it clean, keep it there.
To keep it there, to keep it from drying out. You don't want anything that you're applying onto a nasty wound or a burn to dry out, because that will just hurt really bad trying to get that off and possibly cause more injury. So he repacked this again and again as needed. Wounds ooze a lot. They ooze like crazy. And so if you have a wound like this and you have an herbal poultice packed on there, it's going to lift away the poultice, and it won't really be able to touch the skin and really help out as much as it needs to. So you just reapply the poultice as needed. So that's the ugly one, sorry. So he continued doing that again and again, and eventually he saw that the tissue was actually growing back. It wasn't just healing where it was at, everything was growing back. And then eventually the doctors ended up having a scar. This actually isn't even the last picture. It was like a lighter pink scar, and he's done this. You can go to his website, it's Natural Homegrown Herbalist. I think that's it. Look up Dr. Patrick Jones, naturalhomegrownherbalist.net. And he has other pictures, like there was somebody who had cancer on their head and the whole scalp was gone. And he packed it with the herbs and it grew back and it even grew hair afterwards. Okay, Dr. Patrick Jones. Okay, so knowing how to address issues like this is a powerful thing. If we just know some basic herbs that we can throw together, get wet, apply to a wound, that's amazing. So let's talk about some things that we already learned about. Bentonite clay is something we can use on wounds like that. Activated charcoal we can use on wounds like that. And then write this down in your little notes. This isn't in your paper, but I'll be creating a video about this soon. I don't have a video up about this, but there is like a pyramid that I kind of put together in my mind as to the herbs that we can use to treat wounds like this. So there's 3 layers, so draw the pyramid, and there's 3 layers, separated, draw 2 lines to separate it into 3 sections. The bottom one is your foundational herbs. And those 2, there are 2 main ones, and it's plantain, Plantain, and calendula, Calendula.
Say the first one again.
Plantain. This is the calendula right here. They're just calendula flower petals, and both of these can be grown so easily in our garden. If there's one thing I recommend, just go get the seeds and make sure you have the seeds. You can start growing them if you need to. So plantain calendula, turn it into a powder by either grinding it up or by having a way to have electricity and using something like a coffee grinder or blender or something. And then you can add other things to it. So the next level, let me just say too, on the foundational one, you could also consider comfrey. But comfrey, C-O-M-F-R-E-Y, comfrey usually is, if you have a really deep, large open wound like that, it may heal it too quickly. And you want the flesh to grow back as much as possible. So comfrey is something that's great for broken bones. You can create poultices for broken bones. Okay, but the second level up, these are your antimicrobial herbs, the ones that will really make sure that no bacteria start growing. And those are, you can either do olive leaf powder, or Oregon grapefruit powder, or golden seal powder. Those are 3 really good ones. And you don't need a ton of it, just put a bit of it in there. Whatever feels right to you. Okay, I just want to add a bit of this. Like Dr. Kyle Christensen, I get from him that he fills out every poultice that he creates. He feels like this needs to be added, and that needs to be added. That's what needs to be used for this individual person. Yes?
Will you repeat the last one? Sorry.
Yes, so Oregon grapefruit powder. Oregon, like the state Oregon grapefruit powder, olive leaf powder, or golden seal powder. And then the very top one is a pinch of cayenne, or you can do a bit of yarrow. And both of those are to help stop bleeding, to help circulation, to help increase, just help the cells to fill.
Do it with a layer, like as you're putting it on it, or?
No, you mix all those together. So you mix all those together, and that's what you're packing onto the wound.
Mix all those, and then mix on the.
So one from each category.
You don't mix it with the clay. You can if you wanted to, but for me, I would just do herbs alone. Yes?
So you're mixing one from each category.
You're mixing, yes, thank you. You're mixing, okay, no, back up. I do need to clarify that. For the foundational one, you definitely want to use both plantain and calendula. Those two are just so powerful. They work together so beautifully for wounds. The top two levels, you're just picking one from each one. Okay? All right.
What binds it together then?
Well, it doesn't really, you can add something to bind it together. Remember how I talked about the marshmallow root? That is my absolute favorite. That will bind it together. You can add something as simple like a little bit of bentonite clay in it to help bind it together. But really, I mean, it makes it easier to work with when it's bound together more, but it's not necessary. It'll still pack up well enough, that powder will, and once you wrap it on there, it's good to go.
So just put water with it?
Just water with it, yes. Sorry, I miss details sometimes, so
How
I
often would you change this dressing?
Well, let me tell you what he did. He was changing it like every few hours, 2 hours, and however often he needed to or felt like it needed to be changed, and he kept it on continually for like a week, 24 hours a day for a week. After that, he did 12 hours on, 12 hours off. He just felt like it needed to breathe. You couldn't just constantly keep it in a wet state packed with the herb. Eventually, as you can just see, it's really just at a point where it's okay to let it alone for a while, 12 hours on, 12 hours off until it's completely healed. Okay, so we're almost done, guys. Okay, tea tree essential oil, great antiviral. Thieves essential oil is very similar to that mixture that I told you about, the oregano, thyme, and clove. Just really powerful. It's those Italian herbs that are just really great at kicking out viruses and bacteria. Turmeric, so this is turmeric powder here that you can get from an herbal store. You can create a paste with it and apply it to all sorts of skin issues, especially skin infections like MRSA and staph infection, and take it internally for that too. And remember, I should have said this at the beginning, there's no way I can go over every single little instance as to how you can use it and what you can do with it, and for this instance, that's what the book is all about, right? But these are at least the basics that we're going over. Vitamin A, great antiviral vitamin. Vitamin C, we talked about that, why we store that. Vitamin D3 is one of the main things that we give our children during flu season to keep the flu at bay. Multivitamin, great for just making sure we have vitamins in our system if we feel like we need that. And Yarrow, we had talked about Yarrow a little bit. Remember, so Dr. Patrick, the same veterinary guy that we've been talking about all night, he actually, when he's doing surgery, he accidentally cuts an artery. He says the first thing he turns to is Yarrow powder. And it too just stops bleeding just like that. But it isn't as painful and just great for stopping bleeding. But one of the reasons why I absolutely love Yarrow is because it promotes sweating. When we have a seriously ill person where their temperature is super high, you want to make sure that they're sweating. Otherwise, they more than likely will die because their body will overheat, things will start shutting down, and it's not a good situation. In fact, that same book that I mentioned earlier, The Body Electric by that one doctor, whose name I can't remember, he said that he was in, it was some war, and he was working in a hospital, a makeshift hospital, and he said they knew which patients were going to die in that hospital based on whether they were sweating or not. That simple, cut and dry. They're not sweating, they'll be dead soon. They're sweating, they'll probably make it. And Yarrow, when you give it to a person as a tea, or you can create tincture with it and put that in nice warm water, give it to them that way. It just promotes sweating. It, so to speak, sweats out the illness. It's a really powerful, great thing to have on hand. And a few things that I learned from Darcy, these are fun things, is that if you're out in the forest or wherever, out in the mountains, and you happen to find some yarrow, you take the leaves of the yarrow plant and just rub it in your hands, and it disinfects your hands. And if you don't have a way to get pure water, you do the same thing. You kind of crush up the leaves in your hands, open it up, put that in water, and let it sit there for about 10 minutes or so or more. And it'll kill any bad bacteria that's in the water, and you can drink that water afterwards. Okay, zeolite is very similar to bentonite clay. If you can get your hands on some, it would be a good thing to have. Okay. So top 16 remedies, I know it's kind of a funny number. You have that list there. Alternatives to antibiotics, that's just for your review as well. Let's talk about tools, and then we'll be done for the night. So some tools that I love to have on hand are a product called Saniderm. You can get it either in sheets or get it in a roll like this. And basically, Saniderm, is that on your paper?
Oh,
I think I'm not going in order, I'm just randomly picking stuff here. Okay, Saniderm. Saniderm.com, these are actually friends of ours who sell it, which I don't think is a coincidence. They just live up the road from us. But they actually sell it to tattoo parlors, tattoo businesses, because it's a great way to just cover up the tattoos and to keep it from becoming infected and help it heal more quickly. When you have a situation where you have somebody who needs stitches, this is an alternative to stitches. You know when you see in hospitals where there's been surgeries and there's an incision and they have this clear tape over it, that's what this stuff is. Or the IVs and they have the clear tape over that, that's what this stuff is. It's a breathable, very flexible tape that when it gets wet, it won't fall off or anything like that. And it just helps keep like incisions or cuts closed together. Once again, wounds ooze, they weep, and it will underneath the Saniderm, and that's okay. That actually helps the wound heal more quickly. When you can see that it's just kind of too much of it is collected underneath there, just take it off very gently, wash it off, and reapply another. So let it dry off, and then reapply more Saniderm. So if you purchase the Saniderm, you can put in my name in all caps, and you'll get free shipping. That was just kind of a fun little deal. My friends told me I could share with people. Maybe I should go in order so I can make sure I cover everything. Nebulizer. Oh my goodness. I don't even have water in this one. Let me put water in it. So with a nebulizer, I do have a video up about the nebulizers, but with the nebulizers, not only is it a way to effectively treat respiratory infections, getting that piece off. It's also a way to get medicine into the body on a systemic level if somebody's not keeping medicine down. So if you have somebody, are you coming to tell me? No, I'm just putting it together, it's fine. If you have somebody who's so ill that they're not keeping any medicines down, you need to find a different way to get medicine into their system. And one way to do that is simply by using a nebulizer. And this is one of them. We finally found one that we really, really liked. We've been looking for 8 months or more. I found, like, we tried, I don't even know, you see my bathroom counter right now. We have them all laid out because I'm about to do a video about it. But this is, yeah, you want to get the right particle sizes, because the smaller they are, the deeper they go into the lungs. And, you know, pneumonia starts in the lower parts of the lung. If you can get that, if you can get it down that low, that will be a great thing. But also, if you have somebody who's so ill that they can't hold down medicines, you just have them breathe in the medicine, and it gets to their body on a systemic level by doing that. It's also a great way for preventative issues. If you're in a crowded room or something, crowded home where respiratory illnesses are going around, have people, like I would have our family members, use this daily to help prevent them from getting the illness that's going around. Now, the few remedies that can be used in nebulizer, we've covered some of them, but is the silver, you just put it in there straight, or ASEA, or ASEA-like solutions, accidentally diluted down, or small amounts of iodine. These are all in the book too, right? Small amounts of iodine, like 1 or 2 drops mixed in water, that's it. And possibly even grapefruit seed extract. 1 or 2 drops in water, 2 or 3 drops in water. And you do that a few times a day.
So that's battery operated.
This one's battery operated, and it comes with the cord. So you can either plug it in or use it. And it's sturdy, it's the right particle size. So I will be sending around, to all those who are signing up for the email, I'll send around the link, because we're doing a group buy. We can only get them from China at this point. And so we're just putting together a bunch of orders and ordering a bunch from China and just keeping it a low price for everybody. So it'll be, well, I won't say on the video, I don't know if we can figure out the price, $55, $60 for the nebulizer. No, it's not bad at all. Well, especially like, we had one that we really liked a lot. We bought that one for 70 and thought that was a good deal, but then they sold out of them and they won't have them again, and that one's usually for 10 anyway. It's a good price for a good nebulizer.
So you can't put this on the floor.
People, I would not put essential oils in a nebulizer. There have been too many children who've gone to the hospital with respiratory distress because their parents thought it would be a good idea to put essential oils in a nebulizer. And it just, our lungs are made up of delicate, sensitive tissues, and we really need to be careful as to what we're putting in there, because it can turn an already bad problem into a worse problem. So we need to be really
If
careful.
you're using a diffuser though, when it's diffusing it, you could, with the essential oils, that would help.
Yeah, diffusing it. I mean, it's not quite as of a direct effect as a nebulizer, but yeah, you could do that too. Okay, some other tools. I feel very passionately about enema bags. In fact, in my seminars that I teach, I put an enema bag on every table and I say, now open it up, hold it, touch it, look at it. It's okay. I know where that tip's going. It's all right. But the reason why we want to store an enema bag is because, let me show you this. You know, I always try to get this image in everybody's heads. You know, on one side you see an IV bag, and on the other side you see a enema bag. And if you're in a disastrous situation and you have somebody who's very ill, and they're dehydrated, and their electrolyte levels drop dramatically, and you are not in a place where you can get an IV into their arm and get that hydration up, get the electrolytes up, an enema bag is your IV bag, so to speak. You are getting vitamins and electrolytes into the body rectally. And you're not doing an actual enema where you're flushing things out. You're doing a retention enema, where you create your own electrolyte solution simply by using sugar, salt, water, and a touch of baking soda. The recipe's in the book, or you can look up homemade electrolyte recipes online. And you put this into your enema bag. You insert the tip into the rectum, and you help the person retain it. Sometimes the person might be so ill that they just can't hold the tip in and just kind of keep it in. So you just kind of hold their buttocks closed and help them retain that for about 20 minutes. And what's happening while that is in their system? What's happening? Well, the body's absorbing it, right? And hydration goes up and the electrolyte levels go up. Both of those are critical to getting over the illness. Some people, their hydration goes up, the illness goes away, but if those electrolytes are still low, they cannot recover still. We went through that with my daughter. We had a big experience with that where she was over the illness, but she was not recovering. Something was really wrong, and it was the electrolyte levels. They were so low that she just was really sick still. Yes, question?
Is it true that if it's cold, then your body won't flush it out until it warms up?
Your body will absorb it better if it's at body temperature. And if you think about it, when you put anything cold in the body, what does the body do? It just cramps up. Everything just cramps up. So the person would just retain it better too if it's at a lukewarm or body temperature. Okay, so another option too would be, you know, these, I guess Walmart's been selling these for like $5. It's just so worth it. Just go get it. Don't be embarrassed about it. Okay, and let's see, another good thing to buy would be a rectal syringe if you know that you'll have little ones in your home. It's just easier to control the amount of liquid that's going into the little person's rectum, right, like an infant or a toddler. And let's talk about why these are good. So you're getting the electrolyte levels up, you're hydrating the person by using this, but also, okay, it can be used for constipation. So if you have somebody who's severely constipated, and Senna or laxative's not working, flax seeds aren't working, whatever, then do an enema. Do an enema that just flushes things out. That gets rid of it. If you have a woman who's overdue and you can tell it's probably a threat to her health, try an enema because that very well could trigger labor. If you have somebody who has a super high fever, especially with children and toddlers, do an enema that flushes things out, and almost immediately that fever will drop. It happens almost every time. There's one more thing.
I've done that.
Okay,
And
so
I've
there's an
used it
experience.
for 10 years.
What's that?
For 10 years, we've done cabinet enemas,
Mhm.
and for my younger kids, my older kids don't. but it just, the fever goes right away and it's stuck.
So catnip, enemas, and the fever goes away right away. I've heard that
And
before
I
from
just
somebody
make a
else.
tea and put it in the fridge
What?
because it's cold, when it's cold.
Uh-huh.
And then I use something like that and then it
Catnip.
stays in until it gets
Catnip
warm
tea.
and then it lets out. So that's why.
And that reduces the fever dramatically.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
can use that.
Yes.
Can you just use water? Is that what you
Can you just use water? Good question. The body likes it when things are at the right pH balance than what it is. So you want some salt in it, and you want some, like if you have some, a pinch of baking soda. Like, have you ever cleaned out your sinuses? If you just use water, it's like, oh, okay, that almost hurts. But if you just put a tiny pinch of salt and baking soda, suddenly it makes worlds of difference, and you feel like you can flush it as much as you want. That'll do the same thing inside the body as well. Okay, so let's see, another tool, something as simple as gloves, okay? Just get a box from Costco next time you're there. Or when you're at the dollar store, grab a few packages there. It's just important to keep those infectious fluids away from you, protect yourself from that, masks included. Things like these puppy pads or Chuck's pads, I love these things and I have so many of these stored, it's ridiculous. They're just, it's a way to catch infectious fluids. You have somebody who's severely ill, they're going to be vomiting, they're going to have diarrhea, it's uncontrolled. You don't want that all over your furniture, living area, your sleeping area. That's a lot of stuff you'll have to wash and try to disinfect, right? Or even if you're taking care of a wound, are those possible infectious fluids? Is that infectious blood that you could be dealing with? And it's just a great way to catch that, take care of that. Saran wrap is another one that I talk about a lot to cover any poultices that you're putting on the body. One thing that we also store, I know it sounds kind of funny, but it's plastic, it's painter's plastic from Home Depot or Lowe's, and that's just a way to have plastic. So if we run out of our precious saran wrap, we can use that and we can wash that off and disinfect it and reuse it as needed. Tools. I'm not going on my list. That's my problem here. Okay, sinus rinse bottle. That's a great one. Just rinse the sinuses. Sorry, I'm not really going in order if you can tell. DMSO is the substance right here. You can mix vitamins or other mild medicines into it and apply that to the body, and your body gets immediate absorption of it. So if you need to get medicine or nutrition into the body somehow, that's one way to do it, is by mixing with the DMSO and applying that to the body. Okay, we did Enema Bag, stethoscope, blood pressure pump. Those are great things to have on hand. I have instructions on how to use in the book. A spray bottle. Something as simple as a spray bottle seems like it's not a big deal, but if you're creating your own insect repellent, how are you going to get that around if you don't have a spray bottle? And especially if you're treating wounds or rashes or anything like that, if you're using some of your medicines, you don't want to try pouring it on there. You're wasting medicine doing that. If you spray it on there, you need 2 or 3 sprays, and you've saved a lot of that precious medicine. Spray bottle is kind of a big deal. Saniderm, we talked about that. Empty capsules, we did talk about that earlier. And saran wrap, we talked about that. I think that's everything. Do you guys, let's see. Oh, there's something that we didn't talk about here. I think that's it. If you guys have any questions, you're welcome to come up and ask me. Like I said, we do have our stuff over there that we sell. Let's see, I have my book. Oh, and we have a free sample of the Bentonite clay. So there are different okay, you guys, really quick. You can get the 6-pound buckets. These are the pure, this is the pure food grade kind. But you can also go to IFA and get 50-pound bags for $8. And it's called swell clay. On my video, if you've seen it, I talk about the on-seal clay. You have to grind that up to get that to a powder. The swell clay is already at a nice powder. I wouldn't use that one internally because it's not food grade, but you can use that stuff topically. You're only spending $8 for that for your home storage. But this, there's different brands. The links are underneath my video, but there's Remedies clay, of course. Azure Standard has it as really good prices. Look on Amazon. Just get the food grade Bentonite clay on Amazon. This is from clayterra.com. If you go to clayterra.com/Claudia, they're giving a discount and doing free shipping. So I think it's $55 for this. Just look for whatever's the best price. But they have given us samples. It's in that little wooden basket back there. So you can grab a sample before you go. So the other things that we sell, we have the book, we have a CD where I just share some spiritual, very personal messages on there that I just didn't want to put online about preparedness stuff. And then we have our body heat bags. So those are basically rice bags during a disaster. My husband always told me, if there's one thing you're going to die from during a disaster, it's the cold. It's just being cold. I said, Mom, I have rice bags, and I'm going to figure out a way to do that. So we did. We found a heat-resistant material, put grommets on the side. It's a way where you can heat it up like over a grate, like over coals, or on a pot over a stove, and then you can strap it to yourself, like underneath your coat, or put it in your sleeping bag. Anyway, and then we have our silver makers, and then the red plague remedy, which is a recipe that was shared with me through the Spirit in the temple a few months back. Oh gosh, that was interesting. Anyway, sometimes I just think I'm crazy and I question it, but when I think back on it, I just think there's no way I can deny that whole experience. I actually have the whole story recorded. It's on our blog. If you go to the store, there's like the red plague remedy, and there's a little link, and you can hear all about it. I think that's everything. We have those 5 things back there. We have all those things here today. Yes, question?
Well, I just wanted to mention the one that you just fairly basically talked about was comfrey. We have found it healing many things in our family. Great gangrene,
Comfrey for gangrene, love it.
and for Herbal spider bite.
Full of spider bites.
So, ear infection, things like that. It has been a real blessing for me.
Love it. Love it, yay. Awesome, do you guys have any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much.
You have your color version and your black and white.
We do have some color, mostly black and white, so, yeah, we have both here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, so the books are 30 for the black and white, 50 for the full color. And CDs are 10, plain remedy $35, body bags
It's one of the better
Silver
tasting
Maker
ones that I
And you can.
Let's clap, let's say thank you for being